So I manually did it instead of trying to use my bound button. Manually did it instead of trying. Alright, what's up guys, gals, non-binary, pals, none of the above. This is DL, Scuff Productions, because I don't know how to use OBS. I'm joined here by my pal Zayrb.
What's up?
And we're doing season 5 draft rankings for the Kirby Street League. We didn't do a video for this last season because we couldn't all get together. But we're here now. And this time we got 2 divisions, so you get 2 videos. So it should make up for that. And we even have Quagthonk here now.
Quagthonk is best Quag. Second only to Quag Pride.
Quag Pride, definitely. But I also love Quag Swag over here in the bottom left. Definitely a favorite of mine. And the classic Quag Wave. Then we got Shen's favorite Quag Lol.
Quag Lol.
We are live. It's lit. We have 0 viewers. Hey, no, we got viewers. They're in the chat. What's up, Eon?
Oh, yeah.
What's up? Who's 9 Life? We got Kaz. Excited for some bad opinions. I don't know. We got I mean, Kara is one of the draft analysts, so I mean, I guess yes. Get ready for some bad opinions. And we should have Kara and Hydra both joining us sooner than later. Yeah, Hydra just had to grab something to eat. Kara's gonna be maybe 30 minutes late. Anyways, Zayrb, do you have their notes pulled up for their ideas on the first coaches? Should be in the barbershop.
I've got Hydra's notes pulled
Yeah,
up.
they're both pinned in the barbershop.
Yeah, I've got Hydra's pulled up.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, don't make fun of Hydra for his midnight snack. Hey, who is this?
Cool.
Hello, hello.
Introduce yourself to the people. Say hi, we're on stream.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, who are you? Tell the people. They gotta know.
Alright. I'm the least interesting.
It's the Hydra, everybody. The one and only. Yeah, it's your first time doing a video for the draft rankings, yeah? Me and Zayrb have been doing this since season 3.
Yeah.
Alright. I think that's enough suspense built. Let's go on to so we got only 12 teams this time for each division. Going 16 each would be a pretty massive jump, and we didn't have quite the pull as a community at the time. Maybe next season. Maybe next season we go 3 divisions. Who knows? Big things for KSL, especially with some of our favorites like Hydra having a pretty good shot at getting picked up in the Draft Premier League. Could really spread our name. But 12 teams, and I wonder what you all are guessing for who's going to be number 12. But, with an average ranking of 11.5 at number 12 is none other than Hef Nasty and the Missouri Arcanines. So this is going to be a 12 ranking from myself, 12 from Hydra, 12 from Zayrb, and 10 from Kara. And that's going to be a theme, Kara having slightly different rankings than the other analysts. Yeah. So let's run through the team real quick. We got Celesteela, Z-Move Mimikyu, Donphan, Z-Move Lycanroc Dusk, Houndoom, Masquerain, Mega Manectric, Kommo-o, Starmie, Ditto, and Serena.
This team definitely has a bunch of really good elements to it, especially that Steela Mimikyu core. That core can wreck things, but I just don't feel like the core is properly supported whatsoever.
Yeah, this has a lot of the elements from Jamesy's Season 3 team, which was his most successful team thus far in the KSL. He did make playoffs that season. featured Celesteela, Mimikyu, and Mega Houndoom actually, as well as Starmie as well.
I think he also had a Starmie.
Yeah, he did have Starmie. So lots of inspiration from Jamesy. Yeah, my favorite thing about this draft is definitely the speed control options. There's some really nice priority Pokemon, things like Shadow Sneak Mimikyu, Ice Shard Donphan, Accelerock Lycanroc Dusk. You've got Ditto to Scarf Ditto. Really great. Webb's Masquerain. A really premier speed tier with the Mega Manectric at base 135. And some really nice setups, speed sweepers with things like Autotomize Celesteela and Dragon Dance Como.
One thing that I will say is if this man does not bring Z-Snatch Mimikyu, he does not know how to use Mimikyu. Z-Snatch Sword Dance is the best Mimikyu set, and you can at me for that. That is the best Mimikyu set.
Alright. So that's all the nice things to say. I guess we should get into why exactly did we all three of us have Fat 12th. For me, there's a lot of things that stand out. I just feel like the defense of this team is rather poor in general. It's mostly knockoff weak. Like, he doesn't really have a lot of mons with reliable recovery.
I agree with that.
Like things like Celesteela, Donphan, like neither of those are like the defensive core, it looks like, and they're both kind of reliant on their leftovers. And then Starmie is of course weak to dark. There's no poison type, and as Hydra talked about, the fire type is part dark, so he's pretty fairy weak as well.
Yeah. Also noticed that other than a random default Masquerain, the team only has Very Spinner, which means that Hazard stacking with a ghost type will be really annoying.
Yeah, he has 3 spinners between Donphan, Starmie, and what's the other one? Serena. So yeah, very vulnerable to being spin blocked. A lot of those match up pretty poorly against ghost types as well, I'd say.
The game in general is pretty weak to ghost.
Yeah, because his only dark resist is Houndoom, which is weak to Stealth Rocks. So yeah, definitely relatively weak to ghost spam as well. He's kind of weak to Scald as well. Like Starmie can definitely take those real nicely, like special variants of Como. But yeah, like most of his bulk doesn't really want to take a Scald because his grass type is physically biased in Serena. And then his
I agree.
When we look at his offense, he doesn't really have any dedicated wall breakers. He's got Manectric, which can be a really good wall breaker. Mimikyu prefers sweeping. Lycanroc somewhat prefers sweeping. And the rest, like Como maybe.
Yeah.
But really, there aren't any big wall breakers on this team.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of his offense is more tailored into either a sweeping role, like setup moves, or like a revenge killing role. And he should have a lot of problems trying to break through a lot of fatter teams, where things like Swords Dance Mimikyu with that 90 base attack just won't cut it, you know?
As much as Mimikyu is really strong with that +2 Swords Dance, having used it multiple times, it lacks enough punch to be able to take care of certain big walls.
Yeah, for sure. And like my last critique of this team is I don't feel like the Mega Manectric is really supported very well. Mega Main really embodies the Volt Turn offense playstyle. And if you look at his team, where's the momentum?
He's got Serena with U-Turn. He's got Manectric with Volt Switch, and that's it.
Yep. I don't know, maybe Masquerain gets U-Turn?
I don't think.
If it does, I've never seen it use it.
Yeah, like I don't think that's really you usually can't fit it if it does get it. But yeah, like this team, it feels very clunky.
It's got a lot of good elements to it, and I'm sure a couple free agencies could really boost this team up. But as of right now, it just is missing that extra oomph for it to be a decent team.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this is like a horrible team. Like, if this was in the Gastrodon division, I'd say this would probably be placed somewhere around 6th or so. But there's a lot of quite good teams in this division. You know, the level of competition has certainly risen.
I think this is going to be a pretty common theme throughout this entire draft analysis, is that none of the teams are inherently bad. It's just some of them are missing certain key elements to make them even better.
Oh yeah, do we have Kara's notes on Hef's team?
Let's see.
And after that, we should be able to move on.
Kara had a 10. Army is also never going to be to play offense according to Kara, which I do have to agree. It's not all that good in an offensive role with this team.
Yeah, I think it's also highly pressured into a defensive role. As like the sole check to things to take like scalds.
He needs a bulky water. And Starmie it's decently bulky, yes, but it's not nearly as good as other bulky waters like Seismitoad, Suicune, Blastoise. It's really it prefers being offensive.
Yeah, I think this team definitely would have benefited from a different water psychic, something like Slowbro or Slowking. I think Suicune is now available in the free agency, but it's a little more expensive than Starmie, so I don't think he's actually able to pick that up.
He also wants a psychic type on this team.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Donphan's a crappy Pokemon, personally. But, I don't know. I think that's all we can say for this team. I think we gotta move on.
Yeah.
So, at number 11th, with an average score of 10.25 for the ranking, we have none other than Forside, who is back this season as the Mauville Mawiles. He's got a ranking of 10th from myself and 11th from the other 3 analysts. It's a roster of Victini, Neoligo, Ribambi, Z Decidueye, Sneasel, Regular Aggron, Mega Gyarados, Zeraora, Golisopod, Z Beware, and Z Flygon. And there are a lot of Pokemon on this team that I really love. Neoligo, Decidueye is one of my staple mons, Golisopod, Flygon. Wanted to use Beware for so long, but I don't know if they all belong on the same team together.
I find his team is really physically offensive, and but like a solid Intimidator will really hurt him. Something like an Arcanine on this team, I don't really see many checks to that. And another thing to say would be the fact that like Victini, I find, is just not all that well. It's missing solid removal, which is something
that has Decidueye is a really good defogger, and Flygon's decent.
There's nothing that you would want to pair with Victini.
Hi, what team?
Hi, we're on Forside right now. So I'd say the main thing lacking for this team is defensive synergy. Like there are so many weaknesses to this team, like so many 4 times ground weaknesses. It's very water weak. Like he has 2 rock types. Like he's very fighting weak. Like his fighting resists are. He has double bug too.
Victini, Decidueye is an immunity, and I think
it's like 3 rock weak Pokemon, and one of them's extremely frail, and then it's Decidueye.
This team is a team Hi, I'm Kara, by the way.
Kara, you're a little quiet.
Yeah, it's just because my mic sensitivity is low.
Yeah, much better now.
For the Mawile, the thing I noticed very heavily, other than its defensive synergy is really lacking, is that it seems to be a team that's built with webs in mind, but has no rapid spinner to support its webs.
Exactly. That's
And also, if you're weak to bulky waters, why isn't your Zeraora Z? Not making Zeraora Z cap in general is a huge mistake. It really, really likes having a Z move. But this just compounds onto further weaknesses and issues.
I definitely feel like this team, as you said, really needs a spinner here because Victini needs that support to get rots off the field, and I just don't think this team has the proper removal to support a Victini team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Speaking of
as somebody who loves Rabambi, right? It's one of my favorite fairies in the format. If you're like looking at lower tier fairies, this team just does not use her well.
Yeah, it feels like 4 said, I want to draft a hyper offense team and click buttons, and then forgot that you can't just draft a bunch of offensive Pokemon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, like,
another thing,
player primarily, I really agree with that assessment because you just need some sort of water type that isn't Mega Gyarados to sit and soak hits alongside your Apigron.
Yeah, like Golisopod is an excellent second water, but if your first water is the defensive one, you know? Like, I really like using Slowbro and Golisopod on the same team. It's on my KSL Season 3 team and my Trick of Eye Trials team. You know, Slowbro's able to do all the things you want your bulky water to do, and then Golisopod is really nice as, like, a second one. But in this, he has Mega Gyarados and Golisopod, which are both offensive water types, and really it just makes neither of them work particularly well.
I mean, if this team had Alamamola, I might have rated it a tiny bit higher, but just it feels like there was a big fault in building, where if you make 2 free agents, the team could be a lot better.
Definitely. And I really think the fact that, like, I look at this team and all I see is Arcanine being able to shut down almost every mon on this team. Intimidate and Bulky Fire really hurts them.
Yeah, the one thing I think is really going for this team is I think the Neoligo is an excellent fit. Definitely looks like the team is applying a lot of pressure to bulky steel types, which is what Neoligo really appreciates. And it's one of the few special attackers on this team. So I definitely think that's definitely a standout part of this draft.
Another standout I would have to say is the speed tiers are actually pretty well thought out here. He's got some that are repeating, like Victini and Flygon, but otherwise there's a decent variety in speed tiers here.
I kind of disagree with you there. I think that his team is going to be forced to scarf Victini and Neoligo pretty often because there's this really big gap between like Sneasel and Zeraora where you're never really going to want to run Sneasel as Scarf.
There's Rabambi.
124.
Yeah, but Rabambi's going to take 1 hit. I love using
I mean, Sneasel's not taking hits either.
Yeah, right? So you're going to need to like Scarf Neoligo or Scarf Victini in order to fight certain Scarfers. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on both those two and Zera.
I think like his whole team for the most part is pretty fast. Yeah, Kara, Eon says you're still kind of quiet. Also, Colin asks when you're going to do Fortnite dance. But this team also looks kind of vulnerable to Trick Room offense as well, with a lot of the Pokemon being quite fast.
By the way, quiet thing. Check.
Yeah, I mean I can hear you, but you're definitely much quieter than the other people.
Yeah, it's just part of being where I am right now. I'm technically in public calling in because I can't really do this from home right now.
Oh,
Alright.
goodbye.
All right.
Hello.
Anything else anyone wants to say, or are we ready to move on?
I think I do have one thing to say though. So I noticed that he has two rockers, and one of them is Aggron, which isn't really the best fit for this team, and the second one is Nihilego. So I kind of feel like he's kind of forced to run Rocks Nihilego most of the time, which I feel like would hamper his potential and versatility in general.
Oh yeah, he has very poor rockers. It's just Nihilego and Aggron.
The pussy if he doesn't run Trick Room, V-Crate Victini. That is all.
Anyways, I think we're ready to move on to number 10. So with the 10th ranked draft with an average score of 9.5, which is significantly higher than the other ones, but not quite. It's going to be none other than Blaze and the Albany Abomasnows. Blaze has been a pretty solid coach in the KSL. He's a real like 6-5 kind of coach, I'd say. You know, like a constant like playoff contender. And this might be the season where he doesn't go 6-5. You all have him at 9th. I have him a little lower at 11th. So let's just run through the roster real quick. We have Z-Move Mew, Volcanion, Crocodile, Primarina, Registeel, Dusknoir, Mega Venusaur, Kyurem, Aerodactyl, Z-Move Manectric, and Heracross.
Did you remember Volcanion, which is on this team?
We do. Yes.
First things first, this team looks so much like my team last season with Mew, with Registeel, Dusknoir, Mega Venusaur, a lot of similar mons that filled in other roles on my other team too.
I mean, but that wasn't such a great season for you.
That wasn't a good season for me, and that's why he's rated decently low for me.
So I think the one thing that this team goes is that it's extremely bulky. Like Mew, Mega Venusaur, Intimidate, Crocodile, and Registeel, they are extremely fat together. And I think it will be pretty hard to break this team.
Yeah, and got Kyurem and Primarina, and Volcanion, they all have quite decent bulk as well, though Volcanion is somewhat hindered by Stealth Rocks.
That's the first thing I noticed, but my issues with this team come out like pretty clearly in that his best defogger is a Mew or taunting with Arrow. His team is also really slow in that Arrow is his fastest Pokemon at 115.
Arrow's base 130.
Is 100 or lower. 130? Okay, still.
Yeah, everything
else is 100 or lower.
Manectric's 105.
I'm also going to be real here in that I don't really respect Manectric as a Pokemon.
Oh, that's just depressing.
I think his team is incredibly bulky, but he's going to be forced into scarfing Primarina, Crook, and Heracross a lot, and then he's also going to be forced into defog Mew a lot. One of my big things with Mew is that it should never be the best at everything on your team, at one thing on your team. Instead, it should always just have as many options open as possible, and right now, his Mew is both his best setup threat and his best defogger, and so he has to somehow pick between those pretty aggressively.
Yeah, as an experienced user of Mew, I definitely don't feel like his team has enabled Mew at all. It definitely feels very forced into a defensive role. And just talking about the roles on this team, I feel like there's a lot of overlap between Pokemon, especially between Volcanion, Primarina, and Kyurem. which are all like special breakers. They're on the somewhat slower side, especially Primarina and Volcanion. Like why have all three of those Pokemon? Like I definitely feel like yeah, two special water type breakers. I feel like he could definitely get a much better role for his team in a different Pokemon.
Primarina just shouldn't be on this team in my eyes. It does not really fit the team well. He would have definitely gained a lot more by going with a different fairy type, maybe something like a Slurpuff or something like a Ninetales Alola. I feel like those mons would definitely fit the team a lot better. Not necessarily the best, but for that tier 3 slot, there isn't much else that, like, Primarina, it just should not be on this team.
I disagree. I think Volcanion is the issue, not Primarina. I think Primarina's a really, really, really fairy type move that stops any dragon from ever giving him trouble. I think the issue is that Volcanion itself is not a whole team on his team. He's already got Heracross to break steels. He's already got Primarina to break grounds. I think if you replaced Volcanion with something that was better at supporting you, let's say a really high tier defogger that's fast like a tier 2.
I mean, at least Volcanion has defog. And it's actually not that bad of a defogger because it's able to 1v1 a lot of stealth rockers, especially like defensive rockers. I think like your defensive ground types, defensive steel types that heavily pressures.
I get that, but I also feel like with the upshot of being a downside not dealing with dragons.
And then there's just very low momentum on this team, which compounded with it being very slow, just feels like it's gonna get like very vulnerable to something like Volt Turn offense. Okay, Alright, I'm turning the volume up, everybody. Hold on. Let me turn down the freaking Spotify volume. I mean, SoundCloud. So I feel like that's gonna get really loud.
Also, on occasion, I'm muting myself because I found noise that I don't want to get on the screen. So if I'm silent.
Anyways, also this team gets 6-0'd by Terrakion. Like SD, Rockium, Terrakion just kills the whole team. Yeah.
You break Mew, everything's gone. I mean, yes.
The one thing I really like about this team though is the Psychic Fighting Dark core between Mew, Heracross, and Crocodile. Like Mew with a really great Pursuit Trapper like Crocodile or Aloma. This is such a great strategy. Really helps Mew in a more offensive role, but I feel like just the rest of the team hasn't really supported Mew as a whole. Like I really like that core, but other things can definitely be reworked. Things like Kyurem or Volcanion, I think, can definitely be changed to something that would better support the team.
Honestly, if you had Flygon in place of Kyurem, the team automatically looks much, much better.
Yeah. Flygon makes every team better, according to DL.
I'm not that big of a Flygon advocate. I'm just a Flygon advocate. You should hear the Gen 4 players. Anyways,
I am a Gen 4 player.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we're ready to move on to number 9. So with an average score of 9.25, what'd you say? Anyways,
definitely.
All right, I'm not hearing what you're saying very well, but
just a different.
All right. So in 9th place, we have Just Jake and the Sacramento Slow Kings. One of Blaze's pals, I believe, and definitely has had a sort of similar history in the KSL, coming in Season 2, taking a break during Season 3, and then coming back strong in Season 4. Always a playoff contender. A solid like 7-4 kind of coach, I'd say. And Jake on a good day can beat anyone. And here's where we start to see a lot more variance in our draft rankings. So myself and Hydra have him at 8th. Xavier has him at 7th, and Kara actually has Jake as her bottom team. So just gonna run through the roster real quick. We have Latios, Togekiss.
I tried to ignore the coaches and focused on the team.
We have Latios, Togekiss, Z Salazzle, Chestnut, Piloswine, Armaldo, Mega Aggron, Rotom Wash, Sableye, Ambipom, and Z Torrent Greninja.
Honestly,
So to defend. Okay, to defend myself. Oh.
So you go. You go.
I go? Okay. To defend myself and my opinions about this team, I looked at it and I saw a bunch of very powerful mons individually, a bunch of mons that can individually do a lot of things, but I did not see any cohesion, right? I just sort of see a team that feels like it's oftentimes when people draft for like the first 3 picks, they'll take whatever best mon is on the board to them, and then they'll build out from there. This team feels like you just did that for the entire draft, and it's sort of just awkward feeling to me. The other thing is that I feel like this team relies a ton on Mega Aggron as a defensive switch-in. And relying a ton on Mega Aggron when its only recovery is rest is bad. I know this from experience.
He does have Togekiss with Wish support.
Yeah, I agree with Kara here in the fact that Mega Aggron needs good Wish support, and honestly, I don't feel like Togekiss is the best Wish user. I feel like something else, maybe along the lines of Sylveon, could support Aggron better.
I agree.
But overall, I very much dig this team. I feel like the
I agree.
the synergy type wise is there. I feel like the offensive synergy is a bit off though.
I agree. Hello?
Oh.
Alright, cool. Yeah, I just closed out some tabs. Yeah, so with this team, I don't think it's as bad as Kara is saying. Some things I think it really has going for it is really good speed and really good speed control. The speed tiers on this team are pretty solid, I'd say, though it does cap out with Salazzle at 117. Oh no, Greninja actually at 122, I believe. So pretty decent speed tiers. Nice speed control options between Thunder Wave, Togekiss, Thunder Wave Latios, Thunder Wave Rotom Wash. And the other thing I gotta say is really nice Z captains. I really like the choice to go with Salazzle and Greninja.
I feel like those were his best options here.
Here's my thing is that I feel like Latios really likes having a Z crystal, but also like so does Greninja and so does Salazzle, right? So you're put in a situation where you might not be able to afford to Z Latios with one of the two other mons that really likes a Z crystal.
Yeah.
And so it can feel awkward.
I feel like Latios is a much better user of boosting items than something like Salazzle, for example. And Greninja is similar to Latios, but I'd say even more so. Really appreciating a Z move as like a coverage option, as like a tech move. I think it was definitely the right choice because the other option was Latios plus like Ambipom.
Well, yeah, right. Like it feels like the draft put itself in a position where oh, you took 3 really great mons that all really like having a Z crystal, but you can only afford to either Z your best, like Z one of them, or to Z two of them and leave one of them without a Z crystal, right? So it's an awkward position to be in my opinion.
And I feel like he's got certain mons on the team that I don't know why they're there. Armaldo and Sableye being the main ones. I just don't feel like they fit on the team really well. Sableye especially. I've never been a big fan of Sableye, and I just don't feel like it fits well on this team.
Yeah,
I mean, like, at least Sableye is a passable to like decent Pokemon. Armaldo is, if it ever comes, it's dying early and maybe spinning once, right?
Yeah.
And so that puts all the pressure to hazard clear on either putting defog on your best offensive dragon, on like your really offensive dragon and steel type, or putting defog on Togekiss.
Rotom Wash gets defog.
Rotom Wash gets defog, but also if you ever want to run Rotom in anything more of an offensive role.
I mean, yeah, but
I
those
know
are
that
those are
defog
3
sucks.
pretty solid Pokemon that can all run defog. Sure, like Rotom's probably the only one that really likes to run defog, but I'd say this team has better hazard removal than a lot of the other drafts.
Yeah, that I'll like concede too. It does have mons that really like to like that can remove hazards well. I just also look at Armaldo and I see it as a wasted pick. Honestly, same with Ambipom, but Ambipom at least can do things.
Yeah, about the Sableye pick, I know late in the draft there's a really big scramble for low tier dark types in particular. Like you saw like Drapion, Skuntank, like all going in the late rounds, Incineroar. It was just sort of a scramble, and people were taking anything they could get. I definitely feel like Spiritomb could have been a better option than Sableye here.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like Spiritomb would have been a better fit for the team too. It's more powerful. It isn't forced into a passive role, but it can definitely do a passive role pretty well.
Yeah, it would have been an excellent offensive complement to Latios, I'd say.
I definitely agree with that. And I feel like with just 2 or 3 free agencies, this team could be a top tier team.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my other big issue with it is there's like no special bulk on this team. I mean, it's Togekiss and Spadef Rotom Wash. Like I feel like the physical bulk is I'd say it's definitely physically. Sableye is not very bulky. Like it's not going to be able to take on special breakers.
Yeah, but Sableye can run Max Spadef and Calm Mind to help at least take on some of those hits, right? It's got Prankster, so anytime it needs to play a Spadef role, you can basically always calc it at +1 Spadef.
I mean, for the second hit, I suppose.
Not even for the second hit, Prankster. It goes
yeah,
first.
but it needs to switch in first.
Well, yeah.
Which is the thing. It can't take many. It can probably take 1 or 2 hits before it's down.
Also, you're talking to the person who put this team at 12, right? I'm not super hot on it.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, I feel like this team kind of struggles to take repeated fire hits. I feel like Rotom Wash is just going to get worn down over time. Like something like a Darmanitan would put an extremely high amount of pressure on this team.
Something I noticed a lot with this draft is that if any player makes free agents to like with all of these teams, except for like 2 or 3 of them, if any team makes free agents to get Sand plus Excadrill, there's going to be a few teams that are just free wins, right? Because of course this draft made it hard to get both of them. But if somebody picks up a low tier Sand Setter and Excadrill at some point, there's just going to be a couple mad dash free agents to try and have counters.
Well, this team does have Chestnut.
Yeah, this team is one of the best ones faced against Sand, and that's like the thing I see it having going for itself. Just to like in general note, a lot of teams seem to struggle with Sand offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Mold Breaker Earthquake is also really good against a lot of teams. We'll get into that more later, I think.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a really big jump here between 9th and 8th. But if it weren't for one analyst, the jump would probably be between 8th and 7th. So in 8th place with an average score of 7.75 is Odin, who's returning this season as the real Mareep, with a ranking of 9th from myself, 10th from Hydra, 10th from Zaber, and 2nd from Kara. And the roster is Z, Kieran Black, Ferrothorn, Mienshao, Slowking, Skuntank, Z Pyroar, Mega Aerodactyl, Clefable, Raikou, Palisand, and Z Lurantis.
All right, once again, I have to like defend the standout differing opinion. This team's defensive synergies are amazing between Ferrothorn, Clefable, and Slowking. Also, Palisand is an amazingly reliable rocker that people tend to sleep on. My main issue with this team, though, is that Kieran Black feels pretty unsupported.
Yeah, this team
Tank is like
this team I think really struggles to break steel types, which is something Kieran Black would have liked.
I mean, there's a Mienshao, right? And people always sleep on reckless high jump kicks. Mienshao is going to break a lot of those defensive steel types. The main defensive steel type this team struggles to break is Celesteela. But I think like between Mega Arrow and Skuntank, you don't really have a defogger that really wants to come switch into moves and defog pretty regularly. I figured like if this team had a Klefki or like Amandabuzz or something that could regularly switch in, take hits, defog, this would be my #1 team.
Yeah, I love Skuntank, but I love Skuntank, but this team needs more. My favorite thing about this draft is the Palisand pick. I think it's a really brilliant fit and should be a really solid low tier pick. I'm a big advocate of the Sandcastle. If you've seen any of my TBL war games.
Mm-hmm.
Palisand is just like incredibly slept on and neglected as a Pokemon.
Yeah, I think especially with the poison type not resisting fighting and the psychic type being more specially bulky, Palisand is really appreciated as an additional fighting type check alongside Clefable. So yeah, some issues. Yeah, the hazard removal. Kieran Black's not very supported. This team has double grass as well. Double grass is pretty bad. And I felt like on the whole it was pretty ground weak despite having double grass. Because if you look through his top mons, like Ferrothorn as a grass type is also part steel, and then Slowking isn't as physically bulky as you'd like a bulky water to be usually. And so you're relying on Palisand and Lurantis for ground type attacks.
I think dropping Lurantis for like a low tier flying defogger would make this team so much better and probably push it like very much aggressively, make me go from this is like a #2 team to like this is probably the best team in the draft. I really like this team. Has really great momentum options in Mienshao and Raikou. Its speed is pretty reliable. Mega Aerodactyl is a really underrated mega in format, and in my opinion is, if you're able to hit stone edges, is top 5 mega.
I mean, this guy spent all of last season with his Mega getting hacked like every week, so I don't know if we can really count on that. Mega Gallade got frozen so many times.
I have this.
It got paralyzed all games.
I have this thing where I never, if I'm playing in a Pokemon match with a Pokemon that has either Stone Edge or Hurricane, if I miss a Stone Edge or Hurricane, it does not matter. I would have either won or lost either way, right? I'm just really lucky with those 2 moves. So I tend to rate mons like Tornadus T and Aerodactyl a bit higher than others.
Oh my god. We'll get to Torn T a little later because there's some inside scoop I want to talk about when we get to Eon's team. But I think we're ready to move on to number 7. It's a pretty big jump in average score rating, getting an average score of 6.25. It's none other than Insanity and the Kettling Reapers. Coming back from last season, he came in as a replacement about halfway through the season and did really well. I think he went like 4-1 or something, but just barely missed out on playoffs. And this is a pretty interesting draft. So he's got rating 6 from myself, 7 from Hydra, 6 from Zaverb, 8 from Kara. So all with like sort of middle, maybe a little bit lower middle scores from everybody. Team of Z, Zygarde 50%, Sylveon, Tentacruel, Zoroark, Z Archeops, Weezing, Mega Alakazam, Heatran, Breloom, Combusken, and Zangoose. My favorite things about this team, and I've got this team, it's tied with Xavier, but a little higher than some of the other analysts, is I think that the Tentacruel and the Sylveon are just fantastic fits for this team. You know, pairing a Pokemon like Zygarde with Toxic Spikes is just fantastic. You know, nobody wants to switch their Grass type in to get poisons on Thousand Arrows, for example. Really works well with substitute sets, you know, Subcoil. And then Sylveon puts in a lot of work for this team, but it's sort of a blessing and a curse in that it feels rather reliant on wish support from Sylveon. And I think it's going to have to be brought basically every week, and it's going to be defensive wish every week.
I have like my opinions on this team is that I really love how well Zygarde is supported, and I really love Zoroark on this team. I feel like the team is structured in a way where Zoroark mind games are going to win Insanity in a lot of matches. However, I do have some issues. Mega Alakazam, it feels like it got taken for its speed tier and not for the Pokemon it is, which means that it feels really under-supported on this team. Like, look at this team, and your best way of dealing at dark types is a Breloom or the Sylveon that's going to be brought defensively every week.
Breloom tears through dark types.
Breloom is a great Pokemon, and I have drafted it before, but it's not enough by itself, in my opinion. If Sylveon was in a position where it could come offensively more often, then I'd feel a lot better. And then also being a Mega Zam and having to land Focus Blasts sucks. So I feel like this team, if you really wanted a Psychic type, a bulkier Psychic type would have been a better pick. A Pokemon like Reuniclus, for example, would be really good with this team. And then grabbing a different fast Mega, so something like Mega Manectric or Mega Aerodactyl even, and not getting the Archeops. Lastly, I really don't like the low-tier picks. I don't like having both Combusken and Zangoose on the same team. They both fill out the same sort of role, and it feels really redundant, especially since both types of Combusken are redundant types on this team. I think if you replaced Combusken with a Mon that helped Mega Zam like feel more supported, I would be all over this team. But that Combusken Zangoose double pick really holds this team back in my eyes.
So another thing I've noticed about this team is that it kind of lacks an electric type. So it means that there aren't really that much of electric or flying resist. So I thought about, instead of combustion, like I mentioned earlier, I thought about an electric, a low-tier budget electric type such as Striker, maybe. That would be a decent fit with this team because.
But if he had Zebstrika, he would only have 10 Pokemon.
What?
Because it's not a real Pokemon.
I guess that's true.
I don't know what tier.
I mean, regular Raichu is a real Pokemon. That could have been a good fit.
This looks like a team that wants Magneton, like really badly.
I do agree with that. I love every Mon on this team up until Combusken and Zangoose. Those two last Mons I feel like should be changed out for anything better.
Yeah, I feel like the wheezing kind of works for the team. It's like but there's a lot of pressure on it to be the physical wall, and it is double poison typing. Um, so maybe like a different physical wall. Like if it were available, something like Avalugg might actually have been a pretty nice pick for the team. Some like Tentacool. I mean, this team doesn't have the best ice resist. Like something like Mamoswine, for example, just tears this team to shreds. If you look at ice plus ground.
I mean, let's be real here.
I mean, Mamoswine beats a lot of
What
teams, but this
team-
team is extremely weak to it.
Yeah,
Oh, thank God no one has drafted that one.
Somebody's got Piloswine, and Mamo is a Pokemon that gets picked up in free agency a lot, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of
I mean,
teams I think are
Mammo's
going to
just
make a lot of
really Pokemon
changes.
in general.
I mean, you could look at something like Earth Power Ice Beam Mew, for example.
This is another team that, like, when I was talking about, there's a lot of teams here that seem really weak to sand offense. This is one of those teams that made me go, wow, if somebody had an Excadrill in sand, what's the plan outside of, like, a bulk up Breloom or like a very bulky coil tie card, right?
I guess Air Balloon Tentacruel.
Yeah, but, like, that's not going to do a good job at beating sand, right? Like when I look at drafts, one of the big things I look at is counterplay, right? How do you beat rain if rain ever gets picked up in free agency? How do you beat sand if sand ever gets picked up in free agency? How do you beat Volt Turn? Because there will be somebody at the table who drafts Volt Turn because it's their style they're most comfortable with. And this team seems like it struggles with all three of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just overall the biggest issue with this team is it's very one-dimensional. The plan is win with Zygarde and have Tentacruel and Sylveon help it do so. And then the Heat Ran's there to take on grass types and bug types. Sam is there for speed control.
Team does that really well. Like this team does allow Zygarde to win a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like the most is like Zygarde is very well supported. It's just your other big threat in Megazam is not.
All right. So next up,
I had also made this clear in my notes. When I placed people, top 3 and bottom 3 were sort of their own separate groups, and then the middle 6 are all basically the same position for me. There's no real difference.
I have all the average rankings here, and I definitely noted some jumps, but they're a little different quantum leaps than you've just said. And the big leap in the average rankings comes after the next team. So it in 6th place, the top half of the rankings. Yeah. Anyways, in 6th place, at the top half. You know, I don't know if he believed in himself that he'd ever make it to the top half of the draft rankings. He's been here since season 2, and he was fighting for his freaking life to make it in the Quagsire division this season. You all know who it is. None other than Jamesy and the Crystal Palkia. He's made it. He's here.
Woo!
6th place in the draft rankings. This is his season.
That's what. That is worth it.
Got 7th place for myself, 6th from Hydra, 8th from Zaverb, and 5th from Kara. It's got a team of Z-Move, Tapu Koko, Gliscor, Alola Marowak, Umbreon, Blastoise, Drampa, Mega Beedrill, Gobalion, Uxie, Serperior, and Rhyperior. So off the rip, there's some pretty nice momentum on this team between Pokemon Koko, Bee, U-turn Gliscor, Volt Switch Gobalion, U-turn Uxie.
It has so much momentum.
My main the main thing I noticed when I looked at this team is I felt like both Beedrill and Tapu Koko were very well supported, except for like the fact that most of your hazard clear is either low tier or superior, right? Like it feels like Defog Drampa or Defog Gliscor or Rapid Spin Blastoise is going to be something you see every week.
You could use a
Right, those are,
support
like,
Coco with
really-
defog as well.
I mean, like Togecoco and Glasgow aren't too bad at default as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
but
team
I'm
this
like-
team has a lot of options for hazard removal, actually.
Right, and
Yeah.
so it felt like B was pretty well supported. I don't like Alolan Marowak. I think it's a bad Pokemon. Outside
Oh,
of
Jason would be pissed. He would be so.
I mean, I'm sure
outside
Eon
of-
would love if Jamesy had agreed with you.
I mean, outside of like really, really good like teams with reliable Trick Room cores, I think Alolan Marowak can struggle. The other question I have is, looking at this team and its structure, Drampa was a tier 5 alongside Rhyperior, right? They were both
Rhyperior's
pretty
tier
low
4.
tiers.
Typical.
Okay. Honestly, even though Rhyperior is tier 4, why did you Z it over Drampa? Drampa loves having a Z crystal. If it's ever put into like a team position where it can be an offensive breaker, but Rhyperior is never going to use its Z crystal. And so it feels like this team only has Z Tapu Koko to me.
I think offensive Rhyperior sets are good, like but I feel like
Offensive Rhyperior
Bandit
doesn't
is
want
really
Z
good.
crystal, though.
But I feel like if he wanted to go for something like a Rock Polish Rhyperior, then I would appreciate being able to use a Z move. But I'd say that's pretty niche. I definitely agree that Drampa would have been a better choice.
Yeah, if you want offensive Rhyperior, you have Rock Polish Weakness Policy, which dunks on teams. Turns out Solid Rock is a really good ability when you have a lot of weaknesses and can exploit the ever-loving crap out of Weakness Policy. I have been swept by Rock Polish Rhyperior more times than I can count, to the point where somebody had a Rhyperior in an Ubers league. I knew he was going to bring Rock Polish because he's just that kind of guy. So I brought Energy Ball on a physical, like Swords Dance Rayquaza, because I was so scared of Rock Polish Weakness Policy Rhyperior.
Waterfall kill.
Energy Ball was 0 investment kills. It was great. 0
So-
investment, negative special attack kill.
So another thing really going for this team is I like all the options for Stealth Rock on this team. Between Gliscor, Uxie, Rhyperior, Cobalion, Alola Marowak. I feel like Jamesy really did a good job of focusing on the hazard game. Though maybe it would have been nice to see more hazard options besides Stealth Rocks. Like something like Spikes would really
Also
complement the Volt Turn playstyle that he's really built here.
Also, grabbing Serp was a really, really good decision on his part. He has Coco, which really pressures like the main issue of Serp, which is really, really weak to flying types. And he has both Gliscor and Blastoise to like pressure fire, which sort of just allows Serp to pop off at times.
Biggest gripe with this team is that barring Superior, I don't really like his setup sweepers. Gliscor, yes, it can be really good, but on this team, I feel like it's much more. It looks a lot better in a defensive role. Marowak, yes, it's got Swords Dance, but it's slow as hell, and he'd need to have Trick Room Uxie up. You've got Beedrill with Swords Dance, but Beedrill's much easier to use as a breaker than a setup sweeper. Cobalion, I'm kind of on the fence on, because I've seen it do really nice things as a setup sweeper, but what's its attack stat? I feel like it's really low. It's in the 90s, I believe.
Cobalion?
Yeah, Cobalion's
Yeah,
base
yeah.
90 attack.
Yeah, that's
The attack.
that's the
I really. That's why I have.
can set up on. If I'm remembering correctly, Cobalion also gets Calm Mind, so it can set up both sides. The
Yeah.
thing is that Cobalion, if it's setting up, really wants the Z Crystal, which this team, because of having Tapu Koko, could not afford to give it.
One thing it's kind of lacking. I feel like this team outside of like Alola lacks a lot of immediate offensive pressure. Yeah, Pokemon like Cobalion and Gliscor, like they're good at setting up, like they're big offensive threats, but they don't put on that pressure immediately. But the biggest issue I see with this team,
disagree with you here because there's a Mega Beedrill there.
the biggest issue I see with this team is I feel like there's a sort of conflict in playstyle. It's somewhat similar to Xavier's Season 3 team, actually, between a very fast offensive mode and a slow Trick Room mode, except it doesn't do, especially the second one, nearly as well. Because, I feel like there's a bunch of extremely fast Volt Turn offense going on, and then Trick Room level slow as crap Pokemon.
I mean, as somebody who's run a team like that before, I can tell you it really forces prep to be one way or the other. It's just the Trick Room mode of this team is not supported well enough to force that double prep.
Because the only Trick Room setter is Uxie, right? That's it?
Yeah, because Drampa does not get it.
Just out here in the chat.
Yeah, something like an Alolan Executor maybe could have been a better pick as a second Trick Room setter.
What is Jamesy saying in chat?
He's saying that, like, oh, you guys are shitting on my team for looking too much like Zaz in Season 3, but I won in Season 3.
I know nothing about past seasons, so...
This team is pretty similar to a draft to my championship team, but the thing is that he's missing a lot of better set of sweepers and better Trick Room users to have the full variety that my team had in Season 3.
Also, I'm just gonna say Xavier Season 3 team had a freaking Staraptor, so yeah.
Actually,
that's a terrifying Pokemon. Like, I look at this team and like, I don't know, I don't think it looks particularly scary. Like, Xavier had Pokemon that clicked a button and then you lost. Stakataka, Staraptor, Alola.
Yeah, literally every mom we had was a win con, and each of them could run different roles at the same time, which is why my team worked out so well. I feel like this team is trying to grasp at that team, but it isn't fully reaching it.
Mm-hmm. I think we're ready to move on. Unless Hydra has something to say. You good, Hydra?
Yep. So.
All right, and we're seeing a bit of a jump here. James's average score was 6.5, and the next three coaches are all within 0.5 average score of each other. So in fifth place overall with an average score of 4.25, we have none other than myself, DL, and the Detroit Quagsires, ranking of 4 from myself, Xavier Bankara, and 5 from Hydra. Team featuring Z-Move Garchomp, Slowbro, Jolteon, Incineroar, Z-Move Passimian, Kangaskhan, Mega Diancie, Skarmory, Quillfish, Dhelmise, and Electros.
Alright, DL. Your hazard game is whack. That's my issue with this team. For full disclosure, I helped DL in his front office draft this team. I do not like. I think my major issue with the team as it stands is that if somebody brings toxic spikes or rocks, really, your only reliable way of clearing is Skarmory. You literally have no other defog users.
I have a spinner.
Quillfish.
I have Dhelmise.
The doc was not updated because I do not have Dhelmise on my list of notes.
And then I also have Magic Bounce Diancie. Like, I don't have the best hazard removal, but I have a couple good options.
I mean, like, let me put it this way. Delmise is a good spinner, but a lot of the time it's going to either be running, like you're either going to need its full coverage and can't run Synthesis, or you're going to be running Assault Vest on it, and so then it can't use Synthesis. So it's only going to spin so many times. Magic Bat Dancy seems like a great idea, but you run up against like rockers like Hippopotame or Tyranitar or any really fat steel or rock or ground rocker, and you're never going to bounce those rocks. So that puts a lot of hazard clearing pressure on Skarmory. Also, your team in general seems kind of weak to Toxic Spikes, other than the lovely Quillfish, which is a mon I personally enjoy using. Other than that, those are like my main issues with your team, and I feel everything else really works well. The defense,
hazard removal. That is the only thing on this team I feel like is lacking. Otherwise, everything's perfect.
the core of Garchomp, Mega Diancie, and Skarmory, which I yelled at you to take, and you did not take until free agents, is one of, if not my favorite, like Dragon Fairy Steel core in Pokemon. It's just so reliable because everything that breaks Skarmory gets beaten by either Garchomp or Diancie. Everything that beats Diancie either gets walled by Skarmory or gets broken by Chomp. Everything that like tries to deal with Chomp gets either heavily pressured by Diancie or walled by Skarmory. And so they work as this trio that just applies so much pressure, and you have really good momentum options outside of them.
Yeah. A pick that might look a little weird on this team is the Electros. It's a second mono electric type, but I really like its fit here. Really nice to help deal with electric types and flying types. Oh yeah, and ground types as well. It was especially more important before I dropped for and picked up Skarmory. So
yeah, I voiced my opinion on this in your front office, but I think Jolteon is whack.
Jolteon made the finals this past season, but so did Togedemaru, and we already know your opinion on that.
I mean, just because you use a Pokemon that is bad, well, does not mean it is not a bad Pokemon.
Wow. Hey, if a Pokemon puts in work, it puts in work.
I think Jolteon could be something better, but I think the momentum it adds to the team is nice. But other than that, really, it's a good team.
I don't have anything else to say. The only problem I had was its hazard game. Otherwise,
I think I have good hazard setters. I have 3 rockers, 2 spikers, and a T-spiker, which can certainly help pressure my opponent to defog. I don't have a lot of rock weak Pokemon as well. Like it's just Incineroar, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but you do have a lot of Pokemon that either take neutral from rocks or get poisoned from toxic spikes, and that'll bite you.
Yeah, but I can't absorb toxic spikes. Like that's a little different.
Yeah, but how many?
But like if my opponent has like Stealth Rock weak Pokemon, I feel like they're gonna be more pressure to remove hazards than I am. Also, the other thing I really like is I have a lot of really good physical defense between things like Slowbro, Skarmory, the double Intimidate core of Incineroar and Quillfish. I really like the setup options on my team as well. I feel like a lot of my setup options are extremely threatening. Things like SD Garchomp, Calm Mind Slowbro, Bulk Up Passimian, Bulk Up Incineroar, SD Incineroar, Calm Mind, Rock Polish, Mega Diancie, heck, like SD Quillfish, Coil Electros. Like there's a lot of threats here I'm very excited about. Set up and threat up.
Alright, I think we're ready to go on to the next team if no one else has anything else to say.
At number 4, very close between number 3, 4, and 5, with an average score of 4, so just 0.25 above me, is none other than Eon and the Runaway Rangers. Eon, of course, the mainstay of the league, rebranding this season as the Runaway Rangers. Made finals season 3, but we all know how that went, and semifinals season 2. Yeah, 4th place with a ranking of 3rd from myself, Hydra, and Zayrib, and again a dissenter here. The Kara placing Eon at 7th. We got a team of Torrentee with the Z Captain Torrentee, Hydreigon, Chandelure, Stovali, Miltank, Avalugg, Mega Mawile, Reuniclus, Z Virizion, Raichu, and Seismitoad.
All right. From the jump, I think Mega Mawile is one of the best steel types, one of the best fairy types, and arguably one of the best megas ever allowed. And then probably most of the time, I think it should be banned. I think Mega Mawile is a really, really broken Pokemon. That being said,
that's part of why it's so expensive in this league. By the way, it costs more than any other mega.
Yeah. That being said, other comments about the team. The hazard game is really, really reliably good. Mega Mawile is a Pokemon that I always want to pair with a really, really strong ground type or a really, really reliable trapper, right? I forget the rules about Arena Trap in this draft, but
I don't think you have trapping other than
honestly, Dugtrio or Gothitelle, when they're allowed, are Pokemon that I always draft with Mega Mawile. That being said, I feel like this team is really reliant on Torrentee and Hydreigon to break steals for Mega Mawile. Because if you ever want to run an SD set on Mega Mawile, then you're kind of in limbo. The other and relying on Torrentee and Hydreigon to break steals when their moves that break steel types are not accurate, and then Chandelure, which I've used in draft format and I think is personally god awful. It feels frustrating to me.
But Eon's got the god Pokemon Virizion.
I think Virizion is bad.
Wow.
I think it can do its job. I think it struggles to do its job often enough to be relevant.
Every time I bring Virizion, it gets like 3 kills.
I mean, if he does it, then good on him. I feel like the other main issue I have with this team is that I feel like on the speed control end, you're going to either be forced to bring Trick Room, Reuniclus, or Thunder Wave, or Nuzzle, Raichu really often. And those are really great picks, but having to sacrifice a move slot for Trick Room or having to sacrifice a lot of speed control, it's frustrating to me.
Here's where I gotta disagree with you on this, because I feel like this team has pretty good Scarfers and Hydreigon and Chandelure, and that right off the bat helps out a lot. And I don't necessarily think that this team needs speed control all that much, because of the fact that there's a Sylveon in this team. Parting Shot ruins a lot of Pokemon, and that really hurts them. Another thing to mention is that Tornadus has Taunt. Okay, Taunt helps out a lot in a lot of cases with setup sweepers that could be setting up their speed. It can help versus Webs. He's got very reliable removers, which in my eyes help a lot with speed control too, especially with the Webs part of it.
Webs isn't the only form of speed control.
Yes, I do agree. I just don't feel like this team especially needs all that speed control.
I very much disagree. Your best physical attacker on the entire team, and you have one other physical attacker in a Virizion, is your Mega Maw, and your Mega Maw gets outsped by almost every Pokemon that you're going to be running up against.
And Mega Maw and Uniclus, one of the most reliable Trick Room users in my app.
But also a lot of the times when you're against really, really, really good special attacking threats, you're going to need to bring a Spadef Reuniclus and having to sacrifice moves on that to support Maw, it's going to be frustrating.
Yeah, I think similar to James's draft, this team would have benefited from a second Trick Room setter. Maybe Chandelure gets Trick Room,
Yes, it does get Trick Room,
but it's probably a horrible setter of it.
Yes, it's a horrible Trick Room setter, and in general, it's incredibly frail and bad at staying in on things. I like Scarf Chandelier or Spec Chandelier on ladder do really great things because they're really difficult to switch into. But if you can prep and then you can play the game well, then Chandelier is going to be effectively neuter.
Draft the clown if you're real.
Blacephalon is. I have the same issues with Blacephalon in draft, although it can at least run like calm mindsets more effectively.
I mean, the thing is, Blacephalon's fast, whereas Chandelure gets dumpstered by offense.
Blacephalon is fast and gets beast boost, right?
Yeah, and it's stronger.
I think this team has really, really good potential, but this team is also really, really, really like. It feels like a well-prepped player can really poke holes in this team and like effectively neuter the team's best breaker.
So some issues I have with this team is it's pretty fighting weak on the whole. Like, what are their best fighting checks? Reuniclus and Torn and Chandelure, lol.
Also, Silvally. Silvally is there.
Yeah, I feel like, but yeah, and then Silvally's the poison type as well. And this team feels very weak to status, in my opinion. Like, more so than a regular team. I mean, I suppose that makes Magikarp Reuniclus a better fit, but still, like, I feel like most of this team is very weak to status.
Yeah. I really do like the Seismitoad pick on this team. That's a Pokemon that I always really love using, and I feel is criminally underrated.
Xavier, you got anything to say?
All in all, this isn't a team that I would draft. It's not got many mons that I do enjoy using, but I can very easily see this team work in an experienced player's hands. And Eon is definitely quite the experienced player.
Oh yeah, about Hurricanes, right? We were gonna save this. So going into the last few rounds, Eon got sniped of like 3 different Rotom forms or something, and I was like, "Get Rotom Frost." And he was like, "What?"
Rotom Frost is whack.
And I'm like, "Yeah, get Rotom Frost." It's like, I'm not looking forward to having to rely on Blizzard. I'm like, you already drafted Torn T. You're already relying on 70% accurate move. And then the best part was Eon got sniped of Rotom Frost.
I mean, to be fair, he got sniped of 6 months, right? Heat Train.
You see, Eon wouldn't have had any of these problems if I had just taken Reuniclus off his hands. I should have just done it.
Yeah, Reuniclus is one of my favorite Pokemon. This draft is full of Pokemon I love, like Tornadus T, Hydreigon, Silva,
and yet you have Eon
Reuniclus,
4 spots lower than all of us.
I had to rank him down because he didn't support them well.
Anyways, I think we're ready to move on. So here we have our next big jump. Wait, no, not quite. At number 3, with an average score of 3.75. So yeah, the 3, 4, and 5 are basically neck and neck. We have none other than a newcomer to the league, but probably a bigger name in the draft community than most of us here. So we none other than Skyrise and the Goldenrod Substrikers, getting a rank of 5th from myself and Zaverb, 4th from Hydra, and 1st place from Kara, rocking a team of Zealanders T, a Zelf, a Alolan Muck, Rotom Heat, Licky Licky, Go-Goat, Mega Scizor, Manaphy, Diancie, Noivern, and Hitmonlee.
Alright,
Hydra, you want to
so
lead
I
us
look at
off?
this team. Yeah, I look at this team.
I
see
said
Z
Hydra,
Land T.
but
Oh, sorry, Hydra.
Let's see.
I mean, mine's the outsider opinion, so I figured I should lead off with my vote.
I want to hear what Hydra
I
has
see
to say.
I see a Zealand OT, I see a Mega Scizor, which are two mons that are amazing, that work really well together. I see amazing momentum options. I see amazing reliable rockers and Licky Licky and Azelf and Diancie. I see Manaphy, which surprisingly enough, I'm not really a big fan of Manaphy, despite being the generic hyper offense or balanced offense player. I see like low tier sleeper hits in Go-Go and in Hitmonlee. The Noivern is like the pick I dislike the most, but it's also like not bad on this team. I see an Alolan Muck. So psychic, like bulky psychics and bulky ghosts are never really going to give this team a problem. So I see a team where a lot of the really good Manaphy checks are not going to be able to do their job. It just feels so good to me. It's like such a satisfying team to me, which is why, and it's a team I could see myself using. So that's why I gave it first place.
I mean, I'd say bulky waters can give this team a lot of issues. The grass type is Go-Goat, and then the electric type is Rotom Heat, which, yes, it's a good Pokemon, but sometimes it's forced into a defensive role, and it's weak to Stealth Rock. So I could definitely see.
Do not sleep on the Go-Go.
Yeah.
Like,
Z-Bounce, kill the Mega Venusaur. You know, I know
it's
Hydra.
not even that. I'm not even in it for that meme. It's that Go-Go like Manaphy. So if you're building your bulky water to beat Manaphy, it's going to have to be very Spadef because of the potential of Tail Glow, which means that a physical attacking, whether it's a bulk up Go-Go or just some generic physically offensive set, or it's holding an assault vest or something.
I mean,
is
I'm sure
going to
Go-Goat
smack
can
into
beat
those
water
bulky
types, but
waters.
I don't think Go-Goat's going to beat much of the rest of the team.
Very firmly the Go-Goat is a Pokemon that I think is very disrespected by the draft community.
Yeah, I'm sure it's better than Jolteon. Anyways, the biggest issue with this team is I feel like it lacks defensive synergy. There are certain typings it highly struggles to switch into. Rock is the big standout. Hitmonlee is the rock resist, and Hitmonlee is not a rock resist. Like people say, Gren's not a water resist, but Gren looks like a freaking Tangrowth in comparison to Hitmonlee at taking physical hits. And fighting is another standout typing. I mean, Landorus T definitely shoulders the burden of checking fighting types, especially with such a frail psychic type in Azelf. Then your poison type doesn't resist fighting, and your bug type doesn't resist fighting, and your fairy type doesn't resist fighting. It's like fighting spam looks so strong here, especially since Landorus T can be worn down over time. Anybody else gonna say anything? All right. Things I do like about it. There's a lot of momentum here. Yeah, there's good defensive synergy between the walls for the most part, except there's definitely like some big chinks in the armor, I'd say, in those typings I just talked about. Hello?
I think that Mega Scizor is arguably the best Mega in format, if not just the best defogger in format in general, right?
But Empoleon.
There's just so much going right with this team that like even though it does have some holes, I think this team is going to perform exceedingly well.
I mean, I know Sky's a really good player, so I'm sure he'll be able to do well. And nobody put him low. Everybody has him top 5. But I definitely think there's some really standout flaws that can be exploited from this team. Anyways, so here's where we see the big jump in the top 2 in terms of average rankings. We actually see a tie for the top 2 in terms of average rankings, though one person was put higher by 3 analysts, whereas one person was put a little lower by most analysts. But then, and the person who had, one person was put lower by most of the analysts and then higher by the one, and the other was higher by most analysts and then quite low from the other. So for one of our top 2, our tie for first place drafts, with an average score of 2.25, it's none other than Zaverb and the Gat No Go Goats. And I'm going to give all the credit to Hydra for putting together a draft plan which never got sniped once the entire draft, and that's going to make this draft really tough for most people to deal with. So we have a second place from myself, Hydra, and Zaverb, and third from Kara. And you're like, how did this person get tied for first if nobody put them first? But yeah, the roster's going to be Bulu, Buzzwole, Nidoqueen, Empoleon, Z Talonflame, Z Rotom, Mega Tyranitar, Z Gyarados, Cryogonal, Stoutland, and Latias. And I think that the Pokemon that really stands out to me that I really love on this team is Buzzwole. This team's put so much pressure on flying types that really helps Buzzwole. Buzzwole really helps deal with a lot of Sand's traditional checks and things like bulky grass types, offensive fighting types, offensive ground types. But Buzzwole, I think, is really the MVP of this team.
So yeah, I had a phone call to take with work. My opinion on the team, since I didn't draft this team, actually Hydra drafted for me. I really feel like Hydra did a good job at gauging my play style, and it's definitely a team that I feel like I could use decently well. It's a team that has got a lot of mons on it that I really like using. Tapu Bulu, Empoleon, Rotom, Cryogonal, Latias, and a lot of new faces that I've been meaning to use for a while, like Gyarados, Tyranitar, Nidoqueen.
So this team...
I didn't draft this. I really enjoy the team. I'm so glad Hydra is a good drafter, or else I would have been screwed for this draft.
You also should be thankful that Hydra's in everybody's front office.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, so since you guys have mentioned the positive, I want to mention the things I noticed after I drafted this team and the flaws I noticed in this team as well. That's fine with you guys?
Go for it.
So the first mistake I saw was that I had too much stuff in the base 70s range in terms of speed tiers, like Tapu Bulu, Buzzwole, Nidoqueen, and Mega Tyranitar. Like I have 4 monsters at that tier, and then I have a Stoutland to space 80, but it's kind of remedied by the fact that there's Sandwash. The other thing I didn't think too clear about is the C users, because Latias appreciates having C move, Buzzwole appreciates having a C move, so it's kind of hard to choose which one should have a C as well, because I feel like the potential will be really come out, if that makes sense, if they didn't have like the C move.
So my comments on this team is super well built around Tapu Bulu, right? Basically, it's like 3 amazing Pokemon like that are mid-tier that all share a weakness to ground, a Tapu Bulu, a Buzzwole and then one of those 3 lower tier Pokemon to check the 2 biggest weaknesses of Tapu Bulu. And then there's just like a Latias sitting there ready to cover holes. I think that my main issue with the team personally is that your best form of sort of speed controlling the match is Scarfing Latias or Talonflame. And like I noticed those speed tier gaps. So I'm a little bit afraid of how you're going to answer Scarfers. Otherwise, I really loved this team. It's never a team I would draft, but it's definitely a team I would enjoy watching play.
I'm still kind of shocked at how well Hydra drafted this team for me. Like I told him,
I could draft a good team from other people except myself.
I told Hydra before the draft that I want a team that can be similar to my season 3 team in the sense that it can be very versatile in what it does, but also that it kind of covers a bit of my personal drafting weaknesses in the sense that I really like drafting a lot of. I like having fairies. I like having a lot of certain things, and Hydra drafting for me kind of remedy my flaws in drafting.
I think that's all we have to say.
I got some to say. This team gets 6-0 by Neoligo.
Oh. I mean, I have a that's Mega Tyranitar. That's Disney Williams.
There's also a Latias? Like, excuse me?
Speed boost.
Cool, speed boost doesn't matter if you're not, like, if you're like, if it's living a hit and then killing back, right?
If it's gotta live the hit.
It's going to live the hit unless you're somehow like a calm mindset. I think it
Hey,
Also,
charge beam, pain split,
we
best
have
set.
Queen as well. That thing rolls.
Anyways, this team I think is pretty Scald weak. The grass type is physical in Bulu, and then the water types in Empoleon and Gyarados both don't have reliable recovery. Like a Scald Burn basically neutralizes Empoleon's recovery. Like Latias, I feel like Latias is also forced into a defensive role a lot, and trying to check a lot of threats, and be able to take things like Scalds. I don't feel like offensive Latias is really enabled. I mean, Mega T-Tar does that, but I just feel like Latias needs to be a sort of glue Pokemon like a Zapdos in terms of role here. And
Yeah,
my favorite
sense.
things about this team though are the cores, the Psychic Fighting Dark core between Latias, Mega T-Tar, and Buzzwole. That's definitely my favorite. Then the Fairy Dragon Steel core is pretty good too. You were saying, Hydra?
I'm just very happy. Nothing else.
Alright. So I think we're ready to move on then. So also in first place in the draft rankings is a newcomer to the league, none other than Cyclone in the Hana Lunar Dancers, getting first place from myself, Hydra, and Xaver, and 6th from Kara. So the roster is going to be Jirachi,
Wow.
Tangrowth, Crobat for the win, Drapion, Mudsdale, Z Rotom Frost, shout out to Eon, Mega Altaria, Z Infernape, Milotic, Aselgor, and everybody knows the best Pokemon is Z Captain Audino.
Okay. So should I lead or should somebody else?
You should lead.
All right.
Okay. I'm probably going a little too harsh on this team, but I have some real issues with the way this team is built. I see this team's hazard game as really like you're able to set hazards really well, but your hazard clear options are bad, and one of your best Pokemon, 2 before Mega, is weak to rocks, or at least taking enough damage from rocks where it matters, right? So Infernape doesn't like taking rocks damage. Mega Altaria, before it Mega evolves, does not like taking rocks damage. Rotom Frost does not like taking rocks damage. Excelgor does not like taking rocks damage. And your best defog options are a Crobat, which takes a 4th from rocks, and at least it can switch in on things. Mega Altaria, which is your Mega and your main offensive, like one of your main offensive threats. And Rotom Frost, which is an unmon. My other Rotom Frost is bad.
I mean,
I love Tangrowth.
Stab Bolt Beam
I
is
love
pretty
Tangrowth.
freaking good, especially with the Z move able to compensate for Blizzard being inaccurate.
Yeah, but you're a Rotom Frost.
It's not like
And
it's
if
a
you're
weak
not
Pokemon.
Stealth, you're
This thing will kill.
it is
It
a
will
weak
kill
Pokemon.
people.
It's the definition of a weak Pokemon.
It has
It's
really strong
slow
moves.
pretty naturally. Its speed tier isn't something to like look up and admire. Personally, I really don't like how also like you have Tangrowth and Milotic as your defensive core with like maybe Wish support from Audino and a Mudstep.
Jirachi gets
But
wished as
Mudsdale
well.
doesn't. Yeah, but honestly, I guess this team feels really, really passive to me, yet also isn't clearing rocks well enough to play that defensive game. I really like if it was possible to take Z's off of Rotom Frost and Audino and put them on Excelgor, which can Z Hyper Beam and just nuke things out of orbit, I would have done that. I would have grabbed a better Pokemon than Rotom Frost. Otherwise, like, I can see where people see merit in this team, and this is definitely from my perspective, and that's coloring it. But I think I have a lot of issues in the end with how this team is going to function and whether or not it's going to be successful.
All right. So, in terms of things I really like about this team, I feel like Mega Altaria is really well supported for the most part. Between Infernape is a really great pairing to pressure a lot of steel types. Jirachi does really well with it. There's pretty nice momentum. The speed tiers on this team are quite solid, even for a more defensive team. I feel like this team has a really strong defensive backbone with really great synergy, particularly when you look at the combination of Jirachi, Tangrowth, Mega Altaria. Like those three really work well together, and especially when they're supplemented with Pokemon like Milotic, Drapion. One thing that does stick out to me is this team feels kind of electric weak, especially before Mega Altaria Mega evolves, since the ground type is Mudsdale, which is a pretty lackluster ground type. I'd say I think getting a really good ground type is extremely important, and I think that's one of the biggest
I think getting
my biggest concerns with the team.
Defogger.
And then
Where's Gligar? Gligar would make this team so much better.
Please stop interrupting me. And then my other big issue with this team is feels like there's a lack of wall breakers on this team. Like it's just Infernape. Yeah, like a lot of this team has relatively low base attack stats, and they're usually trying to supplement that with setup or maybe slightly higher base power moves. And you look at Pokemon like Infernape, Pokemon like Rotom Frost, Crobat, like I think Mega Altaria has the highest offensive stats on the team. Like most of the offensive threats are in like the 100s, like 100 zeros in terms of their offensive base stat total, base stats. Xavier, Hydra, anything?
I do agree. One thing that does put this team over the edge for me is the way that I find like the team synergy just works well. Jirachi plays so well with Tangrowth, which plays so well with Infernape, which plays so well with Mega Altaria, which plays so well with Melodic. I just feel like this entire draft is like it's a quote unquote picture perfect draft. It might not win the league, but it's got so many great elements to it. And honestly, I feel like one of the few modifications I would do would be a grounded poison over Crobat and Gligar over Mudsdale. but then he'd be losing out on an important speed
They have
tier.
Drapion for the grounded poison.
Oh, I didn't even see Drapion. Yeah, I do like the team. I feel like a spinner could help out too, but otherwise, this is not a team I would draft at all. It's a team that I would respect and I watch battle.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be something of like a semi-stall team in how it plays. I feel like the defensive synergy is definitely the biggest merit to it. With the options like Heal Bell and Mega Altaria and Wish on Jirachi, I think are going to be very valuable for this team.
Definitely.
Right. So I think that's going to conclude for the Quagsire Division Draft rankings. We should be back hopefully this weekend with the Gastrodon rankings, which should be a lot of fun.
Yes, I'm very excited for that one. That team, that draft is all over the place.
Oh yeah,
it really is. It's a lot easier to rank them in compared to this one.
Nice. I'm gonna end this stream there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll make sure to upload this video to YouTube.